What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am taking a break from my brother's CRV because we are still waiting 24 hours for his mount to cure. Now, you guys should have seen his car before this video, but the mounts are only dried on the outside and it's still a little squishy on the inside. Granted, they sat in the garage overnight and it's still not 24 hours. I have them baking out here right now to cure all the way through before we reinstall these back into my brother's car. So today I want to dive into some transmission work, and before we actually do, I need to go to the storage unit to drop off stuff and also pick up the all-wheel drive transmission so we can open it up to see what's going on with it, so we can put parts on order, and also pick up my belly pan for my blue sedan because we're going racing in 2 days. My brother mentioned that the axles that are in the storage unit that are for the CRV are also brand new, so I got to go check and find those. But when we get back, I'm going to be diving mainly into this EP3 transmission. If you guys don't remember, we picked this up with this long block and we just assembled this entire thing to bring back the silver sedan. The goal is to tear this thing apart and close it back up with the new max speeding rod LSD. I'm very curious to know what was done inside of this because somebody had opened this before, because that is some clean, fresh RTV. And I'm hoping that whoever had this transmission before did synchros and stuff, but we're crossing our fingers they did. We won't know until we open it up. So I'm gonna head to the unit, and when we get back, we're gonna get cracking on that transmission. All right, spare transmission, my brother's axles, and my belly pan. Although I've shown you guys many and plenty of times on tearing apart a K-series transmission, let's run this through together. First thing we're going to take off is the shift mechanism right here. We got some 10s on the top. We got this Allen bolt right here, which is a size 8 right there. Looks clean. Normally, if this is like a transmission used for racing, the shift selector gear thing right here normally gets beat up. I have a Speed Factory in mine and it's taken abuse and it still looks brand new. We're gonna remove the D10 bolts and springs along with the balls. Spring is stuck inside, all of them. Ball number 1, ball number 2, and ball number 3. Reverse gear bolts of 14 right here. Don't forget the washer. We're gonna remove this top bolt right here, which is a 14 Allen. Ugh. I never RTV this, and I've seen this a few times where people RTV it. Next up, we're going to take off all the 12mm bolts holding the outer case to the inner case, and you got to take note of where your brackets are supposed to go. I think there's 2 of them, one in the back right here. On the top right here, you got to release the bearing, and then you can hear that drop. Top case should just come right off. If you look inside here, the transmission looks really dirty, and like this is probably old RTV, but the transmission and the long block was definitely pressure washed before it was sold to me. So again, this might be water mixture with oil, but it is dirty in a sense. But the magnet doesn't have too much material on it. This is like normal, right? Look at the oil. I mean, the oil is clean, but everything else is like super dirty, weird, right? So upon looking at the stack right here, Let me see. One engagement dog teeth, or it looks okay. I mean, most of the time you're starting in first gear. Second is definitely, you can't see it on the GoPro, but second, yeah, it's chewed up. The engagement gears are chewed up. Second physically is good, but if I'm gonna need to change that piece right there, it's the whole second gear. Synchros look good though. Synchro definitely still has that triangle on the top. Same thing with first. The synchros in second look good. Synchros in third looks good. Fourth, fifth, reverse looks really good. It's just second gear and the engagement teeth right there. It's like it's chewed out. And realistically, I can put this thing back together and just send it. But in the back of my mind, it's like it's already apart, and I don't want to close up the transmission with it messed up, because what if it gives me second gear problems, right? Dang. I'm gonna check Synchrotech and see if they have a second gear replacement, and if they do and I can afford it, I'll buy it. But if I can't, we're just gonna have to close it up. So other than that, it looks good. I mean, the stack is gonna come out the same and go back in the same, and even if I get new gears or synchro, it goes back in the same stack, main and counter shaft. So there's no reasoning, I don't think, for me to like try to shim this thing. The only thing we're gonna worry about shimming or clearances would be the differential, because we're gonna be popping this guy out. We're gonna be installing the max speeding rod LSD. We're gonna throw on brand new bearings. We're not gonna use these one, they may still be good, but we got new bearings, and we're gonna need the speedo gear off of this differential as well too. So I hit up two people to see if they have an EP3 second gear for the counter shaft, and I'm just waiting for a reply. Now by the time today is over and I don't get a response, I'm just gonna order one from Synchrotech Transmission. It's $225, and I'm sure there are other ones on eBay, but you know how eBay goes, you can't tell if they're real or fake, and I don't know if there's really any fake gears out there. This one is from Showtime with 20,000 ratings, and it's coming directly from Japan. I mean, it's cheaper, 128, but the shipping overseas, I mean, at the end of the day, if I put like $50 more, I can get it stateside and get one from Synchrotech. I believe this is like a Pro gear, because Gear Driven has the Synchrotech Pro second gear, which is 250 bucks, but from Synchrotech, 225. I mean, we're just gonna have to find the one that fits our pocket. The good thing is they take a firm. So as far as today goes, we're gonna continue with the transmission. I'm gonna take off the entire gear stack to get the differential. I'm gonna remove the 10mm bolts right here that holds all of the reverse mechanisms. Reverse gear and shaft. I'm most definitely gonna clean everything before it goes back in, but once you take all of that out, you can pull both main and counter shaft with the shift fork all together. There are two shims right here. Mine is stuck on the main shaft. I'm gonna leave it right there. Differential right here is what we're taking out. It's gonna be a little tricky. You gotta like pry it or flip the case upside down. Main and counter shaft gear stack. We got the forks, differential. The speed sensor was already broken when I got it, so that's trash. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and clean the inside of both of the casing, put the stack away, clean up my tools a little bit, and then we're gonna dive into the differential. Outer case all cleaned from grime and RTV, Inner case all nice and clean as well too. And I did just notice that the axle seal or the half shaft seal is gone, so I'm gonna have to order that as well too, but all clean. Okay, so EP3 final drive. This is, I believe, a 4.7 open differential, right? You can't see all the way through. You see a little bar in the middle right there. And we're gonna be needing the final drive gear and the Speedo ring gear right here. And we're not gonna need the center. I'm not gonna use the bearing. The bearing feels really good, so I'm gonna leave that on there. But I believe these bolts right here are 14s, and they're also lefty loosey righty tighty, I'm sure, or at least that's what I read online. Yup. I might use some heat on this and kind of like tap it out because it's only press fitted. I don't have one of those bearing pullers. There it is, Speedo ring gear. I'm gonna clean up this differential, wrap it up in saran wrap, because you'll never know if I'm gonna need this in the future or if somebody else need it. I'm gonna have it. You guys see all these little bugs jumping around? One got stuck inside my eye, and I had to turn off the light behind me because it's attracting a bunch of them. If you guys know what I mean, those little green bugs, whatever it is, hard-shelled, they're everywhere. In the moment that I'm recording this clip right here, guys, it's been about 5 days since we opened up the EP3 transmission. And while we did that, we found out countershaft second gear was kind of shot. I posted on Instagram to see if somebody had one for sale or had one lying around, but nobody responded. So I ended up ordering a new countershaft second gear and differential bearings from Synchrotech USA the same night we closed up. And then we took off for the weekend for Race Wars. The part showed up on Saturday, and today we want to pick back up with the transmission so we can close it all up to prevent dirt and dust, you know, caking up inside all the crevices. We have the part right here, 2 bearings and the countershaft second gear. I do have all my stuff kind of laid out right now. I actually came out here today to kind of like offload the car and consolidate and, you know, pile stuff up to take back to the storage unit since race day is over. So I want to continue on even though it's kind of like 7:30 right now. The sun's going to go down in a moment here, but anyways, let's go ahead and open up and see what we have in here, and then we're going to assemble the Max Speed Rod LSD to the final drive ring gear, and obviously with the bearings, the Speedo gear, and then we're going to try to shim it into the case before the gear stack. Synchrotech K176, which is 1.76 ratio. CS2 is the part number here. This is for the EP3 transmission countershaft second gear. I'll show you guys a little comparison when we take off the old unit to show you guys why we are changing this out. But damn, this thing is beautiful. And this right here is the bearings for the differential. There's the part number for you guys, because most places who sell bearings don't give you the part number, so you can buy it from them. But I'm gonna take a picture of this for myself for future reference. Synchrotech sticker, I got a bunch of these. All right, so this right here is the Max Repeating Rod K Series LSD. They also have one for B Series as well too. If you guys are looking for one, the homie Dell from Driven Film Photography has it in his B Series transmission. I believe it's like an F2B turbo setup, and he has been thrashing that thing. It has been working really well as far as I know. But inside here, they do provide you their own bearings, and as far as I've seen, people have used these bearings. I have not seen any complaints, but again, I am going to be switching out for some OEM units. And right here we have the Max Repeating Rod K Series LSD. Now I did a bunch of research and did a bunch of cross-reference. I was a little curious about this one right here, this hole. I thought it was missing a bolt, but it's actually like that. So we're going to be installing this, and the bolts to torque the ring gear to the LSD, these get torqued down to 89 foot-pounds, and that's what Hybrid Racing website says. I'll be sure to screenshot that for you guys. I'm going to clean this out just a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and install these two together. So I had to look up a bunch of photos on my phone and Google to make sure we are installing this on the correct side. And I can see from the imprint, the bolts go on this end, and we have this like groove that's supposed to fit the lip of the LSD. And it looks like the LSD is threaded. So this goes over the big part of the LSD. And then the bolts come from the bigger end of the LSD side for the ring gear to the LSD itself. Make sure you tighten this down and crisscross. It is also still lefty loosey, righty tighty. I'm gonna put this on 2 because you guys think I shoot everything in. I'm really using the impact to drive, but when I'm taking out, I'll shoot the hell out of it. But crisscross. Gotta find a way to clamp this down because we're going to torque it 89 foot-pounds. That's pretty much flushed right there. Heat expands metal material, so it literally just slipped right over after torching it. We're gonna cool this off so that way it can retract and pretty much be like snugged up on the differential before we do the bearings. Look at that. It is on there. Nice and flushed. Now let's do the bearings. Got the bearings on all the way down, flushed, spin pretty freely. Before we put it in, I'm gonna go ahead and put some oil in between all the bearings, the balls, and pretty much between the LSD as well too. We need to make sure that this is gonna sit super snug in the inner casing. The bigger end goes in first. Ooh, that is smooth. Look at that. That's crazy. Now we're gonna close the outer case. We're just gonna use like 3 bolts just to snug the case down. And we're gonna be checking the clearance between the shim and the bearing to see if it's within tolerance. I believe it's like 0.000 to 0.004. So we're gonna see where it sits at. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I kind of already messed with the measurements for the gap between the shim and the top of the bearing, right? So I'm gonna throw it on the screen, the FSM of a K series like RSX transmission, and there's like a page that I'm missing somewhere that skips an entire step, right? So the steps on the screen is the FSM assuming that you already have the correct shim to do the installation process. You put the shim on, you put the differential in, and then you close the case, and then you measure the top of the shim to the bearing, and you should be within 0 to 0.004, right? So obviously we have the original shim to the case still attached to the outer case here, and we closed it, and I measure the top of the shim to the top of the bearing, and we are far off from the specification we need to be at. So instead of being anywhere between 0 to 0.004, which is this one right here, we are all the way to 0.010, right? That is 0.006 off our specification. Right there is a snug 0.010, and an 11 does not go in. So I was like, okay, well, I can just get the difference in shim, right? My math is super wrong here. Simon said you need to move the shim out of the case. So I gotta pop this back off, take the shim out, close it back together, and then see what the gap is now between where the shim sat to the top of the bearing, and then minus whatever the reading of that is to get to 0.004, which is what he recommends, and then buy the correct shim. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, we're probably not gonna finish the transmission tonight, but we are gonna order the shim if need to be and finish the transmission altogether by the time we finish out this video. So what we need to do now is we need to pop the case off, remove that shim, and then remeasure it. So I'm gonna do that real quick. We're gonna close the case and measure it one more time between here and there. This may look really stupid, guys, but look at all of the feeler gauges I have in the gap between the case and the bearing. And the reason why I have so many of these is because the ones in the 30s are really hard to bend, right? And I didn't want to bend so many of them because it'll be a little hard to close back up. So I use all the ones that are already bent from like valve jobs and stuff. And this is all of the feeler gauges that fit in that gap. So I'm gonna do it one more time. And it was really snug too. And I tried an 8 before the 6, and the 8 didn't go in. So right here is pretty snug, but it is in between that gap. So I'm gonna add this up, see where we are at. Okay guys, so this is gonna sound a little confusing, bear with me. I'm trying to make this make sense. So all the feeler gauges that we measured between the case and the bearing with no shim are these 6 right here, and I added them up. It comes out to 0.062. Can you guys see that? Probably not. And then over here we have another equation, and I took the shim out of the case, measured it with my digital caliper, and it reads 1.32 millimeters. Now on the list of shims, there is no 1.32, but there is a 1.3 millimeter, which is 0.0512. The thickness of that shim, 0.0512, plus the measurement we got from the shim to the bearing, which is 0.010, that comes out to 0.0612, really close to all of the feeler gauges here, which is 0.062. So not that far off. Now, if I was to find a shim that is a 1.32, I think we'll be pretty freaking close to 0.062. So anyways, I took that giant gap between the case and the bearing, 0.062, minus the 0.004 that the FSM says we should be at, which is right here, should be 0 to 0.004, and I minus those from the 0.62, and it gives me a 0.058. That's the shim-ish that we need to get close to 0.004 that the FSM calls for. So according to the shim list, 0.058, let me see, 0.058 is going to be between a 1.4 millimeter and a 1.5 millimeter. 1.4 is 0.055, and then 1.5 is 0.059. So the 0.059 is going to be a little thicker, and now because 0.004 is max, we can still be at 0. We can be at 0.001. We can also be at 0.002. We can also be at 0.003. So with the thicker 0.059, it'll probably put it somewhere in the 0.002 or 0.003, which is going to be within specification. So 0.058, we're going to shoot for the 1.5 millimeter part number right there, letter F. Looked it up online. That's the part, 1.5. It's 15 bucks, probably about $20 shipped, and this shim might put our differential where it needs to be. I'm gonna do a little bit more research. I'm gonna make sure that you know, my math here is correct, if I can find something closer before I make this order. So it looks like we're gonna have to continue when the shim shows up. So I guess we're gonna wait a couple of days. Next clip for you guys. Guys, I started this video like 2 weeks ago for the EP3 transmission with the Max Peen Rod LSD, and the shim finally showed up. It took a long while for some reason. I hit them up, they said they had the part in stock, and then when I ordered it, it literally took like almost a week because they had to outsource the other part. So if you guys remember, when I started this transmission, I only had one seal for the axle. So I ordered the other seal, and that was the item that they were waiting for. So we finally got the shim, and I got everything all set up right here on the table, and we're gonna see if my math was mathing and if the shim that I bought is gonna spec the differential in this case. There's our seal. Where's my shim at? And here is my shim. That is the part number for a 1.5. Now this is going to vary depending on your transmission and what you end up measuring, but we ended up with a 1.5. It's between a 1.4 and 1.5, and I think the 1.5 will put it pretty close to factory specification, which is 0.000 to 0.004. We took out the shim from the outer casing right there, and that's where this is going to go into. Make sure it's flushed up in the case. Got to make sure the differential and the bearing is seated on the inner case. There we go, all the way down. Let's go ahead and close the case. Crossing fingers, man, we're in specification. That went on pretty smoothly. That's pretty bottomed out. So in the previous clips, we are measuring from the shim to the bearing, the gap between the shim and the bearing. This is a 1.5 shim, and we are shooting for anywhere between 0.000 to 0.004. So I'm gonna start at 4 and see if the maximum would go in. So here's 4. 0.004. Can't really see much with the GoPro, but anyways, between the shim and the top of the bearing, it's kind of hard to see. Okay, that does not go in. Okay, make sure the case is completely closed. 4 does not go in. Okay, let's try 3. Let's go down to, let me see, let's go down to 2. So here's a 2, 002. It's kind of flimsy, it's kind of hard to try to put it in there. 2, the 2, like at the very corner of the 2 goes in, but we want it to be all the way through, snugged. And I don't know, 2 doesn't go in. What's after 2? 0.0025. What's the smallest size we have here? 0.0015 before this gold one. So 0.0015. Let's try this. This is the smallest feeler gauge that I got. I don't even know how to read that. 0.0015. And let's see. 0.0015. 0.0015 goes in at the very peak of the feeler gauge, but I can't shove it in anymore because it's so thin it just folds. So I don't know, it's kind of goes in, so I will want to say it's closer to 000, but 000 doesn't exist, and that's the smallest size that I have. Let me figure something out real quick. So I was talking to the homie Jonathan, and he kind of gave me a few pointers, and he also kind of redid my math here a little bit, and he said that what he came up with was a 1.45, which is a shim that's available, which probably would have put me somewhere between, you know, more of the 0.004 side, but anywhere between 000 to 004 is fine. So because I already got the 1.5 in it, he told me if the smallest size that I have is 0.0015 and it still doesn't like go in smoothly or snugly, I don't know if that's even a word, but he said what I can do is open up the case, put the 0015 between the shim and the bearing, and then close the case entirely again and see if this slides out easily. Because if it slides out easily, that means there's still a gap there bigger than 000 to 0015, which is within specification. So I'm gonna do that really quickly and see if this thing slides out smoothly, because if it does, I think we'll be good. You can see the case is kind of open a little bit right there, and I'm gonna go ahead and slide in the 0.0015 between the shim and the bearing. At least ½ an inch of the feeler gauge is between the bearing and the shim, right? So I'm gonna make sure it's in there, right? And then I'm gonna close the case. Now, if it's tighter than 000, the feeler gauge wouldn't slide out. If it slides out, there is still a tiny gap between the shim and the bearing, which puts it above 0.000, right? So case closed again, all the way around, and I'm gonna pull this out. Hopefully it comes out smooth. So it came out pretty smooth. So that indicates that it's definitely above 0.000. And honestly, I'll be dead ass honest with you guys. I'm not gonna wait for another shim to show up, and this is enough for me to close it all back together. So I'm gonna call that good. 1.5 shim works for my case with the max repeating rod LSD. It's at least within specification, and before we entirely close up this case, I need to swap out second gear. As mentioned earlier in this video, somebody else opened this case before me, and I don't know entirely what was swapped out of it, but I will say, based off observation, that the gears, fourth and third, looks kind of brand new. Fifth gear, the teeth on the engagement is kind of like when it has wear and tear, it has like a burr on the edges, like say if you missed a gear or whatever the case is. And fourth and third looks brand new, and the reason why I say that is because the color between fourth, third to fifth is lighter in color, where this one probably sat in the transmission, the original gear kind of like changed color over time with heat and everything, and these two looks like it might have been replaced before. The teeth does not have any burrs on it whatsoever, and the synchros look really freaking good as well too, right? So the counter shaft second gear, the engagement teeth are super dogged out, and we bought a new one right here from Synchrotech USA, EP3 second gear. This is the 1.76, and we're going to be replacing just that gear right there. The synchros look good, first gear looks good, the hub slider looks good on the 1-2, and all these other gears look good as well too. Simple enough. This one has a bolt on the top you got to take off, and you got to torque it back down specification. I think with this stack, once you take off that bolt, these gears should just slide out. This one I think this one also slides off pretty easily too, because I did it earlier. But anyways, we're gonna have to take off. It's funny that it's hard to go on when you're like tapping it with your palm, but when you do it with a mallet, easy. Yeah, so anyways, we're gonna take off this bolt, we're gonna slide all these gears out, and we're gonna replace just that second gear, and then we're gonna put this entire stack back together. Size 12, I believe this is opposite of lefty loosey righty tighty. All the gears above second I removed, and second is still whole. I wanted to take it off here on the table to make sure that everything that belongs to second gear is going to go back in with the new second gear. So I don't want to forget or put things in the wrong way. Pulling out second as a whole stack with all the needle bearings and such on the inside, spacers and all. So I want to make sure that everything out of here is going to transfer over to the other one, which is this guy here. And I did notice that there's something else in the front right here. Is this part of carbon synchros? Are these carbon synchros? Or this is the synchro that's like a two-piece or something like that. I don't rebuild transmissions often. I only just learned about this recently, that depending on the year of the transmission, it's either a one-piece or a two-piece synchro setup. And I guess we're transferring this over because it was on the original second gear. It doesn't look like it goes in a specific way orientation wise, but it did go in the same way I pulled it out. So that should be our second gear right there, right? Dab some oil in here. I just want to look at this really quickly. So if you guys look, this is the two-piece synchro setup. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and reverse the process, put all the stacks back in the same way I took it out, and then we're gonna press it upside down to get it all flush and tight together before we put the bolt back on and torque it to spec. Attempt number 1 trillion. Ugh. Reassembly time, guys. Took the diff off just to clean inside the case one more time. Get some oil in the bearing. Reverse gear. This hole for the reverse gear shaft points along this webbing to this bolt right here. Got to do that beforehand. Reverse selector. We have all the pieces installed in the transmission, magnets in place. I think we're ready for RTV. This plastic piece right here goes into the outer case, and what I normally do is I pinch these little tabs right here to make sure it's snugged up in there for when we flip it upside down, it doesn't just come falling out. So I'm gonna clean the surface, run some RTV. I'm using Permatex Ultra Gray. You can use Honda Bond. I've never had an issue with this. Run a nice little bead across the entire perimeter of the mating surfaces. I always try to add a little bit more on the bottom side of the casing to ensure that it's sealed, because once the transmission is in the car, you know, gravity pulls oil down, and if there was a leak on the bottom, it'll seep out the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and zap in all the 12mm bolts. There are torque specifications, but I've never had an issue. Sometimes you can get away with putting a pry bar right here to pull that stack up to get the bearing to clip into the circlip. Most people flip the case upside down and just knock the stack until it clips into place. Actually, I heard it clip into place before I even knocked it. And you can see right there, circlip is in the bearing. Gucci. Reverse gear bolt. If you pre-align that shaft, it should just thread right in, like so. I'll get some HD springs later. These are easy to replace. Hopefully I'll get them in time before I put them into the car. Each one has a spring and a crush washer, along with the balls right there. I'm gonna put the shift selector in, and I'm gonna shift the gears before I RTV it. Make sure everything's Gucci. Make sure the forks are all in neutral. You got this bolt right here that goes in the front. Make sure it's in neutral. Hand tight and go through the gears. Feels good. Got some RTV. Shift selector going back on. Last piece. Got a new axle seal right here. This is the original seal that came with the transmission. It looks good. I'm gonna reuse it. Not that I have a choice because I didn't order another one. Gucci. So many things all over the floor. I tipped over my tripod and I broke my attachment for the quick disconnect, but it's okay. I did order some extra ones beforehand for days like this. Got another one right there. So anyways, guys, honestly, after assembling this EP3 transmission with the new Synchrotech second gear and the max peeing rod LSD, I'm so ready to tear apart the KRX. And the reason why I say that is because H-Day is coming back to the West Coast, October 10th and 11th at Famoso Raceway, Bakersfield. We attended it last year. Freaking awesome turnout. This year, I have no doubt it's going to be fire, but I think I'm going to take the KRX to H-Day. Kind of relive my front-wheel drive days a little bit, and I think that's what I'm going to be bringing to H-Day. Last year I brought the blue sedan all-wheel drive. I know I'll have the silver sedan ready to go as well too, but again, that car is all-wheel drive. I want to throw on my Bogarts. I want to run slicks. I want to run skinnies, and you know, just get the feel of, you know, third gear burnouts again. But anyways, the transmission is for the KRX. When we dive into it, we still got to get the RD1 CRV off the driveway. We're going to work on my brother's wagon a little bit, and then we're going to tear the blue car down, and then we're going to get the silver sedan up and going, and then we're going to tear down the KRX. It sounds like a lot, guys, but trust the process. Garage is closed, everything is put away, guys. I am going to wrap it up for this video right here. I hope you guys enjoy a little bit of the transmission kind of rebuild, second gear, max peeing rod LSD. I'll also put the link in the description below for max peeing rod LSD for the K series, and if you guys didn't know, they also have it for B series. So if you guys are interested, be sure to check out the link in the description below with the provided discount code. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed today's video, this process that we learned together, be sure to leave a thumbs up. And if you guys want to stick around for regular programming with the CRV, because the clutch should be here tomorrow, I'm crossing fingers. If you guys want to see some RD1 content, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.